Right, here's a big one. Dreadlock maintenance. Maintaining dreadlocks and the such. Well, I'm always getting asked, how do you maintain dreadlocks? What is the method for this? How do you deal with that? So, we're going to go over some of those things today. Most dreadlock people seem to fall into two camps. You've got the people who do nothing and never touch their hair, and then you've got the people who mindlessly walk away and want to crochet every loose hair and palm roll and put stuff everywhere. Okay. What generally happens is people with younger dreadlocks are often the people who want to always be working on them, desperately trying to find the method that makes the dreadlocks look more like dreadlocks, and then people who've had their dreadlocks a few years do not so much. And I'll talk about why this is. When you've got young dreadlocks, dreadlocks haven't matured yet, you're going to have loose hair, loose roots, loose tips. It's going to look like a bird's nest, rat's tails, all those different descriptions that I talked about before. But I've also talked about how you can't really avoid this. You start with any method, you do whatever you want to the dreadlocks, and it's all going to take a year to 18 months to mature. But in the meantime, you're always looking for some way to speed it along, some way to make them look more presentable, some way to make them look better. Problem is, there isn't really a miracle way to do this. You often end up just wasting your time and ending up with sore hands. So the guys with young dreads are always working on them, trying to get them closer and closer to looking like mature dreads, when really you just need to be patient. And then the people who already have mature dreads, those dreadlocks tend to do most of the work themselves because they're mature dreads, and so they don't need to do any maintenance. But we'll talk about different maintenance things. We're going to talk about maintenance. The first thing that's going to come up is washing and drying. And you may think, oh, washing and drying maintenance is a different thing. It's not. The best thing you can do to maintain your dreadlocks is to keep them clean and then keep them dry. If you've seen my washing and drying videos, you can see how to do that effectively and things. You'll have seen in those videos I'm quite rough with my dreadlocks, but that's because they're at about 5 years, 6 months now. They're like rope. Mine are pretty tough. I'm not too worried about damaging them. If you've got younger dreadlocks, obviously you're going to be a little bit more gentle with them, and if you have like baby dreadlocks, treat them accordingly. But as you've seen, I'm quite rough, lots of rubbing, blah blah blah. Then when I'm rubbing in the shampoo, it's quite vigorous and aggressive, and then when I'm with the towel, there's a lot of rubbing this way and round and round. That is maintenance there. Not only is it good for washing and drying, but you're rubbing the dreadlocks. And you're rubbing the dreadlocks when they're wet, and they are more pliable when they're wet. So if you watch the Congo video, when you're pulling Congos apart, if you want to pull them, it's better to do when they're wet. They are easier to work with when they're wet. So washing and drying, it's a big thing. A lot of people notice that once they get on a shampoo that works for them, that it will really start to speed up the locking process once they've washed their hair. People with hair that's particularly prone to shrinkage will find that after they've washed their hair, they will visibly be able to see when they get out of the shower that there's been more shrinkage and loops formed. So if you're going to worry about maintenance, mainly worry about keeping the dreadlocks dry, clean, etc. Because dry, clean hair will also lock better and faster. Other than washing and drying, most other maintenance techniques I'm going to say are definitely optional, and their benefits are debated. Obviously you're going to want to avoid wax as always, but there are other techniques that you can read about on the internet that some people swear by, and I am slightly less convinced, so we will talk about those. And then there's damaging techniques and things that you want to avoid. Palm rolling is simply this: you take a dreadlock between your hands and then rub it. Okay, that's what palm rolling is. Clockwise rubbing is where you take a dreadlock and you find the root, which and you take it between your thumb and forefinger and rub it into your hair like that. The effectiveness of these two maintenance techniques isn't particularly well documented. Some people swear by it, other people are less convinced. Palm rolling, it's not going to damage your hair, so if you really want to do it, you can do it. You can sit there and palm roll until your palms are raw. I personally don't believe that it does anything to dreadlocks that are already nearly matured or matured. With younger dreadlocks, it's hard to say one way or the other because I don't think I've ever come across anyone that's palm rolled one side of their head and not the other in order to see the difference. But you can certainly sit and do it, but don't expect miracles, because I personally am convinced that most of the progress you make with palm rolling will then get undone as soon as you wash the hair in the shower. The clockwise root rubbing thing, that can temporarily make your roots feel a little bit tighter. I have experienced this, but I'm also not convinced that it really helps in the long run. And I'd also be cautious about doing it, because if you damage the hair down there, it's going to be a disaster. Now the palm rolling, you can knock yourself out. You're not going to damage any hairs, you're not going to break any hairs. But if you rub too vigorously on your scalp, well, A, you're going to probably end up with a sore scalp, and it's not going to mix well if you've recently backcombed your hair and got a sore scalp anyway. But rubbing too hard on your head, you don't want to break any of the hairs in the root unless you particularly want your dreadlocks to fall out. I'm not saying that root rubbing is going to make your hair fall out, but if you overdo it, I can see there may be problems. Palm rolling and root rubbing, you can give those a go. I personally am not convinced that they are worth the time and effort, but I can see that palm rolling and root rubbing may be useful in small doses for young dreadlocks that you are trying to tease out, ease along the way. I can see that palm rolling may work out for people who need to shore up the sectioning with their dreadlocks. You'll find that when you start your dreadlocks with twist and rip or backcombing, that when you wash your hair, it starts to fall out and you start to lose your sectioning. If once you've showered and you get out the shower, and maybe if you palm roll some of those lumps of hair back, just palm roll. Don't twist and rip or backcomb again after you've already done it for the first time to start them off. That doesn't help. But if you palm roll that section of hair, even if it just gets it to cling together into those sections just a little bit, it's worthwhile, and it keeps your hands busy, because some people really cannot leave their dreadlocks alone. So if you really can't leave them alone, palm roll. Now I'm going to move on to things that probably aren't so good for you and you should avoid. The thing I'm going to talk about is crocheting. I talked about crocheting as a starting method in my starting method video, but I'm going to talk about it as a maintenance method here. How crocheting works: you get a crochet hook and you punch it through the hair, and then you grab some loose hair and then you pull it into the dreadlock. So really that should work fine. It takes loose hair and pulls it into a dreadlock. Problem is, if you keep doing this over time, punching the needle through your hair, pulling in the hair, punching the needle through the dreadlock, pulling it through the dreadlock, punching the needle through the dreadlock. You do this over and over again over a course of months, you're going to end up with holes in the dreadlock. You're not going to see holes, but every time you punch the needle through, you are breaking hairs, breaking knots. So if you're going to have your dreadlock for years and you're going to keep crocheting and crocheting and crocheting and crocheting, every time you punch the needle through, you're going to be breaking hairs. You really want to have strong dreadlocks, because they get heavy over time if you're eating away with the crochet hook. I know some people out there are really dedicated to crocheting and love crocheting, and they're going to keep doing it forever, but I personally wouldn't recommend it. The loose hair over time will knot up and find a dread, and they'll find a dread without making holes in your dreadlock. You just need to be patient. Don't root flip is another one that I've seen, where you take a dreadlock, that people only do this when they have young dreadlocks that have loose roots. You take a dreadlock, you take the tip, and then you push it back through the soft root and then pull it through, and then it makes the root tighter. Why don't you do this? Because when you push it through root and then pull it through, it sort of splits the root into two. I can't really demonstrate this with anything, and I'm not going to do it to my own hair, but imagine you take the dreadlock, you push it through the soft part of the root, and as you push it through, it's going to split the root in half. So temporarily it is going to make your root tighter because you've pulled that through it, but the split in the root isn't going to go away. The hair is going to grow out and it's going to be split, and you can end up sort of the opposite of congoing and can form two dreadlocks growing into one dreadlock. Over time it'll stick back together and you'll just end up with a bit moving down your dreadlock that is a different texture, a strange lump, but just don't do it. Ripping. I've talked about it in the Congos video, but this is something that you can obviously do for maintenance, and that's if two dreadlocks start to stick together, rip them apart. This is part of regular maintenance, especially if you're doing natural neglect method where they're going to be doing it a lot, but you got to keep on top of that so that you don't end up with huge Congos everywhere if you don't want them. So regular ripping dreadlocks apart, you go for that. Something else that you can do is rubbing a sort of wool jumper on your hair. It's not necessary. I mean, none of these maintenance tips are 100% required, but if you're watching a maintenance video and you're probably looking for something to do, this is something that you can do. Wool hat, and rub it on your head. It makes the loose hair frizzy and sort of knotty and can help deal with loose hair. I mean, it doesn't stick loose hair so much into dreadlocks, but it takes it from just being straight loose hair into sort of matted lumps of hair that will be more likely to form dreadlocks and stick in. So rubbing a wool jumper on your head, that works fine for making loose hairs frizzy and knotty. Swimming in the ocean, that is good maintenance. Salt water is good for dreadlocks. You get salt in the dreadlocks, it makes more friction, and when they rub together it can speed up locking. Some people try and take this away from the ocean by making salt water spray and putting it on the dreadlock. This works fine for some people. You can give it a go. Don't overdo it, like you don't want to overdo anything. You wouldn't want to put too much shampoo in your hair because you won't get that residue out. You don't want to put too much salt water spray on your hair because it will irritate your scalp. So when you put it on, you don't want to get it on your scalp because otherwise you'll dry your scalp out and go red and be painful. But a bit of salt water spray on the sort of general dreadlock area, you can give that a go. And then the one thing that I actually have ever really put any time into other than sitting and ripping, basically I don't sit down and go, oh, it's my dreadlock maintenance time. If I'm watching TV or watching a movie, you'll often find me sat there subconsciously or not really paying attention while ripping dreadlocks. But also what I do is, if I got loose hair, twist it around my finger. So I have loose hair, then twist it around my finger, and then pull it out. It's sort of similar to twist and rip, but not really. I do it with my fringe hair sometimes. I used to have more fringe hair than this, but I've already sort of got rid of it. So I have this, twist it around my finger, and then twist it around the dreadlock, and then because I've twisted it around my finger, it's sort of grabby and not straight. Temporarily it's held out of your face because it's wrapped around that dreadlock, and if you're lucky it will then stay stuck to that dreadlock, sort nothing to it. So just twisting around your finger works fine sometimes. I used to get lots of loose hair here in a patch, and I used to twist it around my finger, and then it formed its own little baby dreadlock and then stuck to a real dreadlock. So I think that sums up the maintenance video. If you have some strange maintenance thing that you want to ask about, I will answer questions about it, but I think I've covered most of the popular things that are done to hair. But the thing to remember is you don't have to do anything. I'm fairly certain that a year from now, whether you palm roll every day, every night, or do nothing, the dreadlocks will look pretty much the same. The effect that most of these maintenance techniques actually have in the long run is debatable. Just relax and they will really sort themselves out, I promise.